There's a lot of sciencey and tech stuff coming from someone who's been a retail guy,
Yeah.
right? A guy who opens stores, who is talking most of the time merchandising, who's talking about marketing, brand. This is a lot of geeky stuff, right? So now, and you spoke about two very impressive podcasts, Peter Attia and Huberman. I mean, must listen for people who want to understand human physiology
Absolutely.
in depth. Uh, are you now consciously kind of making an effort to kind of drift towards this area of knowing, okay, what can you, because this is not natural for a lot of people, right? I mean, you have to, and these are stuff which is not been, maybe for unknown reason, not taught in school, right? I mean, we are taught at a very macro level what biology is.
Correct.
Right? We are taught about organs, but this is more human performance.
Yes.
Right? We are talking about sleep,
Yeah.
right? Glucose, right? Does it come to you as something where you have to make an effort now to say that, okay, how do I go find resources? Do you kind of, you have some close folks you kind of, riff with, like these are the stuff which we are talking about? And second, how do you find time, right? I mean, your day is packed.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when you were talking to me about the schedule, I couldn't figure out a way where are you kind of consuming all of that? So how are you managing?
So I typically end up doing it in the commute.
Okay.
So I
That's
have a
great.
long
Yeah.
commute, so I
Yeah.
either listen to the podcast.
That's
and of
another great
course-
hack.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
And the other hack is to listen at multiple speed.
Multiple speed,
But
yeah,
of
yeah.
course, with Huberman and Peter Attia,
You
can't do that. You'll
You
miss
literally can't.
most of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So that is one. The other is that because again I have such a long commute, I internalize a lot of things. I am
Okay.
alone in the car with the driver. I have time to think.
Okay.
So I start plotting that what is it that I want to incorporate in life. Given the constraints that I have, given that I can't do anything at work, it's easy to carry a bottle of vinegar and have spike your water and have it 20 minutes before your meal.
Brilliant.
So your glucose spike is less.
Brilliant.
Or for example, if you do want to have sugar, but in factory, if they put a sweet in your plate, just remove it. You
Yeah.
choose the sugar you want to have.
Right.
If you love ice creams, then why should you have what they
Correct,
put
right.
in the plate?
Yeah. Have some vegetables before that and then go for your
And
dessert.
then go for
Yeah.
the dessert.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things. And then, the next is that I do also remember that if you've had a meal, it's best to walk for 10-15 minutes. Given that we have a factory set up and we have 60 acres of campus, it's very easy for me to walk out of the building
Perfect.
and just take a 10-minute stroll and come back.
Perfect.
So those are the things that very easily. And,
Right.
and a lot of the times I take someone with me that, listen,
Okay.
you want a 10-minute catch up, let's walk.
Great.
So you don't waste your time.
Right.
And then you quickly do a catch up with the
So
person and
you
come back.
get your meal, you get a spike, you immediately get that 10-minute walk so that you can actually get it regulated, right? I mean, so you're listening to all of this content and you're pretty much making it in action. I mean,
Yes.
it's just not like a passive one-side consumption what you're doing, right? And that's very impressive because most of the time, we live in a world today where there's overload of information,
Yeah.
right? And often it just comes through you and it just kind of settles down, right? It's very hard, and these are very small hacks, like you said. I mean, you get a dessert, but okay, to kind of counter that, you have some veggies before that and get to your dessert, right?
Exactly.
And after having your dessert, you get a spike, just go for a 10-minute walk. And these are very practical stuff which anyone can do, and you're doing for all the reasons in a manufacturing setup in a factory. And I really hope that guys who are there in a much more controlled environment where they're sitting inside. I mean, that's what most of the workplaces, these are like IT sector. You are in a much more controlled space. That's something which almost everyone can do that.
So I think one of the things that people don't realize, and I've seen it with people who are averse to exercising, people who are smokers,
Yeah.
people who are chain coffee drinkers and tea drinkers. I think they just don't realize how the body gives up beyond a point.
Yeah.
Most people think that diabetes is genetic.
Yeah.
They don't understand it's a lifestyle disease.
It is, yeah.
And what does lifestyle disease mean? And how you can actually reverse it even if you've had diabetes.
Yeah.
I have seen people, my wife's father,
Yeah.
suffer because of diabetes. So why should anyone go through it when
Sure.
it's in your hands?
Absolutely.
And I think for me, it's important to tell people that, boss, listen, if you don't do this, you're in for trouble.
Yeah.
And somehow people in their 30s don't realize. They think that anything I put in my body will get
Yeah,
processed.
because they're taking for granted, right? They haven't
Exactly.
seen the downside yet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In your youth, everything is a
Yeah,
given, right?
yeah,
That
right,
life
right.
is there in
Right,
front of me. I
right.
can do whatever. I
Right.
feel invincible, which is
Yeah,
great.
Right.
And it's exactly like your finances, right? Your
Right,
health
absolutely.
is exactly like finances.
Yeah,
It's
right.
too late when people realize, oh, I
Absolutely.
should have saved. Oh, I should have focused on health.
Yes.
I think that's
Absolutely. I mean, a very good point. I mean, yesterday I was speaking to another guest and we were doing this podcast recording, and he came up with this very good analogy that it's about conserving your energy, right? I mean, this much is of the energy bank you've got. You try to take it for granted and you go for a burnout, you are done. You have nothing left when you are at your prime. I mean, post 30, mid 30s, 40s. So you have to have that practical clarity that, okay, how much you want to, and in the analogy what's about wealth, you have to have a very good understanding that, okay, this is what I've got, right? So I have to be very mindful and very careful, and perhaps sometimes very selfish to also say how much do I spend now?
Yeah.
How much do I actually conserve so that I can utilize it in the future?
absolutely. And that brings me to an interesting thing that we spoke about when we were running. And I was told this by a friend. He introduced me to the time billion concept.
Yeah. I wanted
He
to
also
ask.
read it
Yeah, I
somewhere,
wanted you
and
to
I
tell
think
me that.
it
Yeah.
links on to your other guests conserving energy, right?
right.
If your average lifespan is 80,
Yeah.
after 37 and a half years of age, you're no longer a time billionaire. You don't have billion seconds to live.
Exactly.
So are you going to sacrifice your billion seconds
Yeah.
to chase money?
Yeah.
What will you do with the money
Yeah.
if your energy is getting depleted? Real time, your time is not going to come back.
Right.
So that is very, very important for people to realize that you are running behind what and how much and how far and how fast you want to run.
Yeah.
So exactly ties back to conserving energy.
Yeah.
And that's entropy,
Yeah.
energy can neither be converted nor
Yeah,
destroyed. It
right.
only gets, can never be created nor destroyed. It only gets converted.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's science.
It's
in
it's
life.
hooked. Right? It's beautiful. I mean, because and I'm sure people who are listening and watching would actually have this back to back as a great tool to say, and something what we discussed in the previous episode was that same concept that what you do after age 30 determines what your health would be at the age of 60, and that's pretty much exactly what you just said, right? And this is coming from two guys who are at the pinnacle of high performance when it comes to professional work, and they've seen enough to reach that level, and they've seen both ups and downs. And it just can't get more practical. I mean, these are not fitness gurus, these are not scientists, but someone who actually done it for themselves and they figured it out, right?
So I also believe, and one thing you will see probably common is that over time, one thing that I relate wisdom to is that you become more inward looking.
Yeah.
If you start living with internal validation rather than external, then you've achieved a certain kind of peace with yourself. And I think that is what every guest probably that you would meet who's come to that realization.
Yeah.
And for me, it's extremely important that I am comfortable with what I'm doing, what I'm saying, what I'm wearing, what I'm eating, rather than what someone else thinks of me.
So I don't have to ask you again now what's your philosophy of life is, because this is what your philosophy of life is, right?
Absolutely.
It's intrinsic, right? You're not looking at what the external validation or external whatever the metrics or factors are, right?
So those, like I said, I have got them and I'm internally now satisfied with what I've achieved early on in life. And I think I tell people that if you work hard, you will achieve those.
Yeah.
And there is no end to chasing it. It's very difficult. So today, if I say that I will make 1 crore and I say that I will retire at 1 crore, I know 99.9% of the people, when they reach 1 crore, they will say, now I'll make 10 crores.
Sure.
When they reach 10 crores, no, now I'll go to 50.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle, right?
Exactly. So you need to know what that goal is and don't change the goalpost.
Interesting.
It can be 1,000 crores. That's okay.
Yeah.
But
when you hit it,
when you hit it,
yeah, that's a pause.
yeah, that's it. Don't say I want 10,000 crores now.
Right.
You cannot change the goalpost because then it's a never-ending cycle.